Hello everyone, Trent Davis here. I am on the teaching team for 4899 EDN, and it is my pleasure to bring you a series or a mini series in terms of teaching for the profession here as well. So this is a brand new course, 4899 EDN, Reflecting and Responding as a Professional, and I'm going to deliver a couple of lectures over the next couple of modules that look at how you can actually apply the theory into practice. As we all know, it's all well and good to be able to read the theory, understand the theory there as well, but it's how we actually implement it and how it applies to our classroom is where we're going to benefit the most, because that means we are using it authentically and thoroughly to best support the children in our care. So I've got three mini lectures that I will present over the course over the period of this course that will look at tying the theory into practice. Today is the mini lecture 1, Classroom Environment Strategies, looking at innovation, innovative arrangements and inclusive practices there as well. If at any time you have any questions while you go on placement there as well, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm always happy to help support our wonderful beginning teachers. And just side note, it's so great to see so many of you enrolled in this course. I remember having a lot of you from our first year in some of those first year courses, so well done. So welcome to today's session on classroom environment strategies there as well. In today's session, we'll focus on how to create that dynamic, inclusive and supportive classroom environment for all of our students. And I've actually got some photos of my room there as well. That bottom one here is of my year 2 classroom there as well. I'm probably in the way a bit there, my apologies. So we will focus on how we can actually make it supportive, how we can encourage that supportive environment for our students. As future teachers, it really is essential for us as educators to recognise that our classroom arrangements, both the physical and cultural aspects, have that direct impact on our students' engagement, their safety and their participation as well. The way we design our classrooms can either foster or hinder student interaction and involvement. For example, a classroom that's arranged with flexible seating, quiet corners for focus, areas for collaboration or collaborative work, can encourage students to be more engaged and more comfortable in their learning. A positive, I guess along with that, a positive classroom culture builds on respect, builds on those inclusive practices there. And that plays a crucial and really a critical role in ensuring the students feel safe and valued there forward. As you move forward in your teaching careers, not just on this final placement there as well, but as you start this exciting journey in the real world there, remember your classroom environment is a reflection of the teaching strategies you use. A well thought out environment will empower your students and contribute to their learning success. These strategies there actually align with the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers. In particular, Standard 1.3, so students with diverse needs. So that's you encouraging that inclusive classroom where each child can participate actively regardless of their learning needs. Standard 4.4, use of resources and equipment. This standard highlights the importance of ensuring that the environment and resources available in the classroom support diverse learning needs, helping students succeed. One of the first stories I'm going to share with you is of a boy that I taught a couple of years ago in prep. Now, this particular child liked to work alone and got very distracted when he was at his normal table groups there as well. So I had my 4 table groups, each identified with a shape, so yellow rectangles, blue circles, and so on there as well. He would always get distracted. So I quickly worked out that he worked better with less distractions and he didn't disrupt other people's learning if he was at a desk by himself. So I created another desk. I had his table and another table for myself or the teaching assistant to sit and work with him. That worked really well. A lot of students were shocked at first because I thought, oh, that's the naughty table there, or he got moved for talking. And it took me a while to set up that inclusive environment to talk about, hey, It's not because this child was naughty. This child needs this space. You have your space. You might need something else there as well. And over time, the students were quite respectful. They didn't touch things on that desk. They were respectful. We were handing out books. We also put that child's book on that desk there as well. And I communicated that to the parents, so if they were to walk in and go, oh, why is my child sitting there? Is he in trouble again? Oh, hang on, no. It's because of the adjustments made to be inclusive there, and he wanted to be part of that classroom. He could not work at that table group, but he was happy to still be part of that yellow table group, but sit separately there as well. So we made those accommodations and adjustments. See where you can do that on your placement, and obviously as you start teaching. That bottom picture here that you can see is as soon as you walk into my classroom. I like to make it as warm and inviting there as well. It's a bit hard to see, but you've got the caterpillar up top that's colourful and bright. You've got some question prompts. Under the aircon around here, I've got dinosaur lights from Kmart there as well, and they're turned off in the photo, but they have them on there as well. So look for ways you can make that safe space. You spend so much of your time at work there. Students spend so much of their time at school there. Make it that safe and welcoming environment that they want to be there as well. From that, I wanted to now just spend some time as to why. We don't just do it and make that room because we love decorating. We do it because there's meaning and purpose behind it. It also relates to our inclusive education policies and legal documents here as well. As you all are aware from your undergrad studies, inclusive education is a fundamental component of the Australian education system. It ensures all students, regardless of their abilities or needs, have access to quality education and what I like to call optimal success. What that success looks like is going to be different based on their abilities, strengths, areas to improvement, and we don't compare because no two children are the same. The disability standards for education and the Australian curriculum actually provide the framework that supports this inclusive approach. This approach ensures every child has the opportunity to succeed, and teachers make reasonable adjustments to accommodate that, all those children there that need it there. These standards guide us as teachers to accommodate the students with diverse learning needs. They encourage us to consider various factors, such as, is there a sensory need here? Learning preferences. As I just said, that child before preferred to work alone. Now, I know in the past, teachers, and I've been one that actually have done that as a behavioural strategy, but that strategy worked for this child. He preferred to be alone. He preferred to work quietly. So he was still part of a table group, but that table was physically moved away there as well, because that suited his learning preference. Consider emotional support or lack of emotional resilience there, and how each child can fully access that curriculum and what you need to do to suit their individual requirements. As you know, and if you've been in my classes before, you would have heard me say this too. When children walk through that door, you are first and foremost a pastoral care leader. You need to identify how they're feeling, that check-in, that self-regulation check-in, how they're going, and are they ready for learning? Now, some children they'll come in really happy, excited, and that's great. That's the end goal. That's what we want. Some children might come in appearing happy, but are quite anxious. Some children might have had a really rough night at home. They could have seen their parents fight. They might have had changeover from mum to dad. They might have had a death in the family recently, or lost their pet there as well. So we've got to cater for that. We go, right, I know you're going through a tough time. What can I do to make you feel better? How can I support you through this? There, as well as, because once we do that, then the children can access the curriculum. There's no point you teaching the curriculum and having all these whiz-bang lessons and PowerPoints if a child's not engaging. You're wasting your time and their time. So cater for these needs first. And we have the policy and legislation that says be inclusive. Look for that there as well. You might have a child that gets overstimulated, so actually, or distracted. So therefore, you might have a visual timetable on the board for the whole class, or a visual timetable for him or her at their desk there as well. That can help them stay organised, help them know what's coming, so that pre-warning there, and hopefully reduce some restlessness there too as well. You might have to give some verbal instructions. Maybe some students don't do well with multi-step instruction. You need to break it down to singular step. Fine, do that. If that's what works for the children or that particular child, you do that, because that's ensuring you're meeting their needs and you're giving every child the chance to succeed and reach their optimal learning potential there too. By focusing on these principles of inclusive education, we're ensuring that we're providing those equitable opportunities for our students, allowing them to thrive regardless of any learning challenges there too. As I said in the previous slide, I am also highlighting how each slide relates to the professional standards. Why? Because I want to see it's not just me recording this lecture because I want to hear the sound of my own voice. It's because there's meaning and purpose. What you're doing on placement, what I'm talking about on these slides, links to your professional obligations here as well. And again, I'm trying to tie that theory into practice as to how what you've learnt with your undergrad, that theory, and how it's linked to the real world. So, in terms of inclusive education, it aligns with Standard 1.5, so differentiated teaching to meet the needs of students. So that's encouraging teachers to adapt their teaching methods and resources to cater for the diverse learning needs in the classroom, as well as Standard 2.5, literacy and numeracy strategies. So that standard emphasises the importance of supporting all your students, especially those with learning difficulties, to provide resources that cater to a wide range of learning abilities. So if a child can't access it because they're distracted or they're overstimulated, it's your job to remove those distractions or help eliminate them so the child can access that curriculum there too. Right, with that in mind, I just wanted to share with you some innovative classroom arrangements. You might see some of these on placements or you might be in a more traditional setting there as well. Just see, don't forget over the span of your careers, you will move naturally around schools, depending on your family circumstances. You might move states, all of that there. So you will be from time to time in different schools there as well. But innovative classroom arrangements go far beyond just placing desks in a row. And I've got two images up here of some flexible seating there as well, and I'll talk about that in a moment. As teachers, we have the opportunity to create those flexible spaces. Now, full disclaimer, some schools will actually have that stipulated, that we have flexible learning classrooms in grade 4 to 6 or high school and prep to 3 or whatever that stipulation is. Then obviously you follow that. Other schools you might not have it and you go, okay, well, I'll make a flexible area within my classroom there as well to help cater for it. So just make sure you're checking with the school policies and procedures first and foremost. As you know, a well-designed classroom space isn't just about physical access. It's an important part in supporting the students emotionally. They've got to feel connected to that space. For me personally, I love coming into my classroom, seeing the students' work on display, seeing them taking pride, keeping it tidy and clean, because I'm spending a lot of time there. I'm there before school, I'm there a couple of hours after school some days, so I'm spending a lot of time there. So I want to feel safe and supported there too, and I want that to flow on it and to impact my students in that positive way there too. So when students feel comfortable in that space, they're more likely to engage and interact positively. So you might want to design some of these spaces with them. We're going to set up this corner. This is a cool-off corner, right? A reflection table. What does that mean? Develop it with them. Set it up with them there as well. Now, one of the examples I wanted to give you is when I took my students to the science lab within our school. I was lucky to have work in a Peter 12 school that had the science laboratories there as well. So obviously it was set up for the high school students, and I'm taking grade 1, or I think it was grade 2 there. So I had these movable stations, and I moved the students around, and that helped me create that dynamic and adaptable learning environment or learning opportunities there as well. So we had movable stations, right? You're going to do your first bit of the experiment here, then come over to Mr. Davis and do it at this desk here as well. and we changed it around. We didn't, I obviously asked for permission because it wasn't my classroom, it was the science teacher's classroom. Asked for permission, and then I changed that around for that lesson. Now we went back, we obviously put it back before we left, being respectful, and I taught my students about respecting other people's property there as well. But then it was only one lesson, but I still made those arrangements because I needed them to be, I needed it to be accessible for my students. Now, if you can picture, firstly, the height of a Year 1 student compared to a Year 8 student, there's a large difference. Even the chairs were bigger compared to the small chairs I have in my early years classroom. I love the idea I could take them to a science lab. It's completely different to my normal homeroom classroom, but I had to make it accessible. So I had to do some classroom rearranging there as well. Now, from that, my students were able to collaborate more effectively. They were even able to work independently to conduct the experiments there as well. And that flexibility there actually encouraged those learning styles and needs, and it made the lesson a success. So if you focus on flexibility, technology, the emotional comfort of your students, you can help your learners thrive. These innovative classroom arrangements not only engage students, but also support them to develop critical thinking, which is huge. Critical thinking and problem solving are part of the 21st century skill repertoires there that we need our students to learn whilst working in collaborative space and collaborative environment. So next time you walk into your placement classroom, or when you get your classroom for the very first time, which is exciting, think about how can you be innovative in those arrangements there as well. Well, how are you going to get the best out of the students by arranging them in a particular way? Now, it's not just decorating a classroom, it actually aligns with the standards. So it aligns with standard 3.2, plan, structure and sequence learning programs. So the key word here, sequence. You've planned it, you've sequenced it there as well, you've made it accessible for them. This standard encourages you to use things such as flexible seating, collaborative work there, seating arrangements. If you've got students that are really good friends outside the classroom, but in the classroom they are not good together because all they do is talk and they're off topic, they're not going to access their learning. So you might need a seating plan where they're kept separate, and you talk about, hey, you're good friends outside, but inside you need to work with a learning friend here as well. So keeping those things in mind. You have to make those adjustments, otherwise they're not going to access the curriculum, and therefore you're basically teaching enough, no benefits are happening for it. So develop these pedagogical skills to change, to adapt, so that each child has this optimal growth and success to actually engage with the curriculum and fully their full potential. Lastly, standard 4.5, use ICTs to expand on any of your teaching and learning opportunities there too. Because you can integrate technology in so many ways now into the classroom, which can further support the child's learning, or I should actually say students, because it supports everyone, in a more dynamic and engaging manner there too. So how should we do this? So let's now look at some strategies. So engagement and participation are real critical indicators of what I like to call a thriving classroom. Sorry, you probably can't see, my shoulder's blocking it. So when students are actively engaged, they're more likely to be invested in their learning, which really and ultimately leads to better outcomes. Now, if you think about it, if you're doing an assignment and you're really engaged in it, you like the topic, you're more likely going to be more motivated to work on it for longer periods of time. Whereas if you're doing a course and you might find it a bit hard or struggling with it, you're not really understanding what the task requirements asking you, you might, like me, procrastinate, put it off for a bit. I'll do it later. I'm not in the right headspace there as well. So if we can actually get our students motivated for learning, all right, then that's half our battle. One effective strategy I do, and I know you would do this, is differentiation. Differentiation allows us to tailor our instructions to meet the diverse needs of students. So you might offer various learning materials, you might adjust the pace of the lesson, anything that's going to help the students ensure, to help ensure that all students are successful there as well, regardless of their capability. If they're working below year level expectations, so D, technically that's a fail, and on paper and numerical value it's a fail, but that doesn't define them. What can they do to grow? Now they might just move from a D to a D+. Still technically a fail, still technically on paper, on numerical data below, but they've grown from a D level grade to a D+ grade. Great, celebrate that there too. Now, another one that I love to do is group work and cooperative learning. These approaches not only engage the students, but also foster collaboration, which is, as you know, a key skill that we want our students to do. Now, if you see here, this bottom picture is me there. Now, I'm being a facilitator of learning. So I'm actually standing, I'm watching my students. I've cropped them out, obviously, for confidentiality. They're collaborating and working. Now, that resonates with me a lot because there was a time and place I need to have explicit teaching where the students are passively listening, but there's also a time and place I want them to be the drivers and me take the passenger seat, so to speak, there as well. And I was just monitoring the room and facilitating that learning there as well. So see, they were on the carpet doing think, pair, shares, partner talks there as well, and then going back to their desk to complete the writing activity there as well. The top right is at an international debating conference that I took students to, where we actually went over to Yale University in America to compete in the finals. We had the regional rounds here on the Gold Coast, then they made it to the semis, and then obviously the finals there as well. Now, with that in mind, there's so many ways to get them to cooperate with other students there, right? To learn from each other there too. Something else I'd like to share is when I was teaching a history lesson in primary school, I divided the students into groups. All right, again, simple strategy. You would do this as a primary school teacher, and for those of you who've been secondary trained, you can still do it, get them into small groups there as well. All right, and look at a particular event. So if you're high school, you might look at a significant historical event, World War I. Lower primary, I was looking at toys. In the Year 1 HAS curriculum, we look at old and old toys and now traditional toys, and how things change over time. So we have the old wooden toys to now what toys do we have? How toys can, with technology, how they can speak and interact with us there as well. Battery operated, all of that there compared to the old-fashioned wooden ones there too. Now, I could do that by just saying, hey, look at this toy, let's discuss it, go back, write it up, do whatever. But they were collaborating, they were working together with each other. They could examine it, all right, discuss it. Now, where possible, I actually had toys to bring in. Some of them I just had images if I couldn't get my hands on the actual physical object. But each group would then talk to each other. They would then come up and present their findings to the class. Not only were the students engaged, but my year ones, so they're 6 and 7 years old, were taking an initiative for learning. It was promoting collaborative learning, all right, but they were also proud of their work and actually reduced my behaviour concerns or behaviour issues because everyone was on task learning. So see where. Now, in order to do cooperative learning, I obviously needed to have some explicit teaching first, and I also needed to teach the students what that looked like. And the consequences if they were talking about, to their friend but completely off task, talking about what they're going to play at morning tea or what they're going to do after school, then there was consequences. So you've got to still set up your classroom culture and climate in terms of the rules and expectations, but once you've done that, you can then embed some of these, which will help the students engage and participate there. As always, this approach aligns with Standard 1.2, so understanding how the students learn, which encourages you as a teacher to vary your teaching methods, and again, to ensure they can access it. And Standard 3.3, using a range of teaching strategies to engage the students through cooperative learning and active participation strategies there as well. And again, that's going to ensure all students are involved in that learning process. So here are some real world examples. It's all well and good to talk about the theory here as well, but I want to share some photos of my teaching experiences there as well. So you can see, and again, I apologise, they are small here, there, but you can see top left, the open plan spaces. I have put in outdoor classrooms there. I haven't got any photos there as well, but if you're lucky enough to have an outdoor space attached to your classroom, make use of it, or find out where the courtyard is, or an area that will work, and take your students out there for learning there too. And then embed the technology where possible. We're in the 21st century. We've been in the 21st century for a while now. Let's embrace it. Let's use it. So this bottom right one, sorry, my screen's chopping off my finger here, is me in what we call a metaverse, right? A full technology room. So you've got some projectors, and there was no whiteboard there, and I was projecting onto the wall and talking to the students before they went off and did an activity, and they're sitting in an arch, like that blue arch in that top left there as well. So as you design and organize your classroom environment, it really is crucial, all right, to consistently reflect on how those strategies you implement align with the APSTs. Because if you do that, that's going to guide you in creating effective and inclusive learning spaces there as well. So for example, Standard 3.2, it looks at those various teaching strategies you need to meet the needs of the diverse needs of students. That's really, or that's particularly relevant when creating those inclusive classroom environments, because it highlights the importance of adjusting your teaching methods, highlights the importance of you adjusting your accommodations to suit the different learning styles, their abilities and their backgrounds. Every child's different. No two children are the same. No two individuals are the same. We need to accommodate that, adjust our strategies to best support that. So by you aligning your strategies, you're adhering to Standard 3.2, you're adhering to the fact that your classroom is accessible, you're adhering to the fact that your classroom is engaging for all students, and creating an environment where they can succeed regardless of any barriers or learning hurdles, difficulties or disabilities there as well. You're giving every child an opportunity to succeed. Now, ideally, in the ideal classroom, it would be that everyone's, above expectations for their grade. We know that's not reality. That's not going to happen. There will be students that will be below, there'll be students above, and there'll be students at expectation. But look for each child's strength. And I come back to the example I gave of a child who's achieving a D level grade, technically below, technically a fail, numerical value is quite low. But if they can move to a D plus, again, technically a fail, but that's growth. Celebrate that. Celebrate that achievement. Talk about it there as well. You've probably heard me tell you this story, but I'm going to share it again anyway. It's a child I had who lacked self-confidence, but also was below the expectations. Now, it actually turned out there was a particular learning disability there that was actually impacting that child. But at the time, I didn't know this. So this child was struggling with his reading. He was working really hard, so he had that determination, but he just couldn't grasp it. And now that's because I'm an early years teacher. He was in year 1 with me. It was too early for any sort of formal diagnosis there as well. So, and we're still investigating and navigating schooling and formal schooling there as well. Now, as the year progressed, children were flourishing with their reading and their reading levels, and this child still was stagnating. He wasn't moving past level 1. Now, got to about September, so semester 2, and a lot of the children are in, the early teens there as well, level 12, level 13, and we're still on level 1 with this particular child. Now, I retested him at end of term 3, which is midway through September, and the child progressed to level 2, which was fantastic. So what I did, I actually stopped the class, we celebrated it. Now, we actually congratulated this child, he got a prize from the prize box, and we really looked at celebrating this success. Now, there were children that says, oh, you know, you're at level 2, I'm level 15. And that was a moment that I had to stop and teach some empathy here. We don't need to compare it. You've made growth, you've made great success up to level 15. However, this child, I said his name, has met his goal. He's jumped to level. We don't compare, but we celebrate it. So see how you can develop that. Fast forward, this child now has a diagnosis, and so we know there's a clear barrier preventing this child from accessing the curriculum, but we've put support and accommodations in place to best support him, and he's happy at school. And he's in year 6 at the moment, so he's final year of primary. So now let's talk about how to align the strategies we've discussed with the Australian professional teachers. As you design your classroom environment and implement strategies, it's important, it's actually essential that you consistently and continuously reflect on how these practices align with the APSTs. For example, if you see on the screen here, standard 3.2, focusing on the importance of using a range of teaching strategies to accommodate the diverse needs of students. So this standard is directly linked to creating that inclusive classroom environment, things that we've discussed today. So after a lesson, you might like to reflect on elements that went well, elements that did not work, things you'll do again for when you teach the next science lesson or next lesson in that unit. Did the seating plan work? Was it effective? Do you need some small modifications, or do you need to actually change the whole entire seating arrangement there as well? Think about whether students work best individually, like the example I gave at the start of this lecture, or in pairs or in groups, or with a teacher as adult support there as well. Did they engage more in group work? Or actually, have you got some students that are a little bit more shy and reserved, and that was out of their comfort zone, and they preferred partner work or to work independently? You might simply just do this verbally with your teaching partner. Hey, this lesson was good, but you know, I know Trent didn't like group work, so I'm going to get Trent to work with a partner, next lesson there as well. You might jot some things down in your diary. You might make formal notes on the unit plan itself to remind you for next year when you teach it again. Regardless, that reflection allows you to adjust your classroom. It allows you to make sure that setup is successful and you're meeting the needs of each child in your room. What I like to do, and again, this works for me, it may not work for you. So obviously, when I live 40 minutes from the school that I teach and work at, so usually in the morning, you know, as with everyone, I'm fresh, I drive to school, I have the radio on, I'm listening to some music there as well, and I'm excited to start my day. On the way home, because I've had such a busy day, often I'm quite overstimulated. I've had to deal with, you know, say a behavioural incident at lunchtime, reporting, marking, all of that. I come home and because I've got that 40 minutes, I always drive home, might have the radio on for a bit, but then I turn it off and I reflect as I'm driving. So I just like to sit there quietly, drive home, and I reflect about my day. What went well? So what was 3 things that went well? What's something I need to fix tomorrow? What's something I need to follow up on? And what's something that didn't go well, and I go, oh, next time I won't do that. And that's how I reflect, just quietly in the car on that car ride home there as well. So standard 3.2 is just one example of how the APSTs encourage us to adapt our teaching to support our learners. Another one is standard, it's not on the screen here, but standard 6.2, which really emphasises the importance of ongoing professional learning there as well. You have to engage with professional learning. If you're full-time, it's a minimum 20 hours a year of accredited professional learning there as well. Your schools will provide you that with their weekly staff meetings too. And if you're part-time or casual or relief, it's the pro rata or ratio is a little bit different there as well. Just checking my notes, so I've mentioned that. Again, work with colleagues. That collaborative approach there is going to help. Standard 6.2 will not only help you improve your teaching, but also ensure that your classroom remains an inclusive space there when all students can thrive. See on the screen here, standard 4.1, supportive teaching practices, and then 5.1, that reflective practice. Your teaching partner next door or your teaching team will be that great support, not only for moral support, but support where you can have that debrief. Hey, I've got a tricky situation, this child's not responding to these strategies, what else should I do? It might just be that you know, they're there just for that moral support, or actually they come up and give you a great idea. Someone that's can help sometimes just provide clarity. Sometimes you're so busy because you want the best for every child, you're not thinking clearly. And someone who's that teacher who's obviously not in that classroom all the time, they're with their class, is technically an outsider coming in with fresh eyes and fresh perspectives there. So reflect that way. And then of course you'll have your formal reflections throughout the year with your line manager there, head of faculty, head of junior school, head of curriculum, whatever sort of area you find yourself working in. Okay everyone, that brings us to the end of the very first mini lecture. What I will do at the end of these lecture bites is provide some links to some further reading and resources related to the content. So today's all been on that classroom environment there and those classroom arrangements there and strategies for innovative practices. So you can see here there's a range. They're all hyperlinked. I will provide the PowerPoints on Canva there as well, so you should just be able to directly click on them and they'll take you directly to that site. Thank you so much and for engaging with this lecture, and I hope you found it useful, seeing how the theory has tied into practice. And I do encourage you to engage with the other lecture bites as part of this mini series for our course. Thanks everyone.